Maybe they can
Scott.
hear me now.
Now we can hear Scott.
Can you hear
I,
me? Give me the
I
thumbs up.
don't know. I'm looking at the comments here. Uh, Everyone's saying they can hear me. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Uh, no one's saying anything about Delisa.
There's like a 10 to 15-second delay.
Not Delisa. Scott, loud and clear.
We
Oh,
can
we
hear
can.
you now. Okay.
Thank
So
you, Anne Marie. Okay, we
Mercury
got both of us.
Mercury
So go
retrograde.
back, Frankie. Frankie,
Okay,
your cat.
I'm going to restart this. So
Yeah.
let's go back in time 3 minutes. Okay. So thank you to everybody for letting us know that you couldn't hear us. All right. So this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. I want everybody to weigh in the comments. How have the last few days been?
Yes.
Have they been intense? We've been hearing stories that there's been a lot of intensity. We obviously see what's happening on the world stage with war and missiles and all that happening. Okay. So Friday morning, so it's in Virgo, right? This eclipse. Friday morning, I was getting like starting to wake up in the morning, and my cat Frankie, who's not even 5 years old yet, she it felt like she like tumbled out of bed, which was really weird for her.
Hmm.
And a couple of days before, she fell out of her cat tower and scared the crap out of me and Frazier. Frazier's my other cat. So she'd like fallen twice, which is very weird for cats. So Friday morning, I start like getting the sense that something's wrong. So I look at her after she falls off the bed and she's not moving right.
Hmm.
And I look at her around the side of the bed and her legs are not moving properly. Like she's walking like she's drunk. She goes into the cat bedroom and defecates all over the place because she can't even get inside of her litter box.
God.
And then she's just laying there. She can't move.
Oh, Jesus.
So I get on the phone. I'm calling my mom, texting with my dad. I tell my mom, get over here as soon as you can. And while I'm laying there with my cat, trying to keep her still, because I don't know if she's broken something or what's going on, I'm calling the vet. I'm calling the emergency vet, right? So, emergency vet says, bring her on over.
Hmm.
So, my mom and I we like pick her up and put her on a blanket, and we're holding the blanket to carry her over to the car. So, we get her
Wow.
over there, and I think we were there like 3 hours. Um, the vet has basically concluded it's a neurological issue. He doesn't know if there's a tumor or something going on.
Yeah.
He said, you could drive her to Seattle or Montana where the closest MRI machines are basically, and it's going to cost you probably all said and done $8 to $10,000.
Oh my God.
Um, but they ran the blood test they could run, and they're like, all right, so here's what we can do. We can give her a steroid shot, which could help her brain if there is inflammation, something going on in there. Um, but we also are showing she has an infection, and you have basically a 50-50 chance that the steroid will help her or it'll make the infection worse and it'll actually kill her.
Oh my God. Wow. What a
The
choice.
the amount of hysterical crying I did on Friday,
Delisa.
and just I felt so helpless, and it's hard for me to see my own stuff psychically, especially when I'm emotional. But my
Hmm.
dad, he's the side of the family I strongly get the gifts from. My mom and I were sitting there and we got him on speakerphone, and I'm like, what do I do? Do I give her the shot and hope that she lives?
Hmm.
Um, and so that's ultimately what I decided to do is
Is that what your dad said to do, or is that because you
he
mentioned your
felt
dad?
that way. He felt like the steroid shot was the way to go. My mom was feeling that same way. And I was concerned that if I didn't try to stop whatever was happening in the brain,
Hmm.
then we were going to go down an even worse path than we were already on. So basically, in the veterinarian's office, praying and all of that. And they gave her the shot and she's been fine the last few days. So that's the really good news. Um,
Okay.
Obviously, based on all the conversations we've had with the vet, there probably is some kind of underlying issue that I'll continue to kind of monitor and watch and keep her as happy and comfortable as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But that to me feels like the energy of an eclipse of, mine's what, Virgo, fourth house home, isn't Virgo pets. So I feel like, was this the potential like ending, or this like shocking revelation of something that I was unaware of that was very Virgo related. So I share that as an example because I know I'm not the only one that has been going through it. Um, but yeah, how has it been for you with all of this energy?
Yeah, it's been intense, but not like that. And you're right. Virgo is the sign that rules pets. But also, last Wednesday was the start of Mercury retrograde, and Mercury is the planet that rules Virgo. So, uh, there's that. And for you, the retrograde was occurring at a degree that squares your Sun and your Neptune in the sixth house, the house that rules pets. So the planet that rules pets stopping in the sky, moving backwards on Friday, it was almost exactly where it was. It was at the same degree that it was at on Wednesday, squaring your Neptune, squaring your Sun in the sixth house, the house that rules pets. Friday midday is when the moon was squaring your Pluto, so the planet of emotions, squaring the god of death, and then Mars also on Friday was transiting at 27 degrees in Aquarius, squaring your sixth house Uranus, the planet of the unexpected, at 27 degrees Scorpio. So the god of war squaring the planet of the unexpected in the house that rules pets.
You can't make this stuff up. I mean, if
Yeah.
anybody is questioning whether or not astrology is real and astrology works, there you go. I feel like that's kind of a mic drop moment. Yeah. It's
So,
I felt so helpless
yeah.
because I knew I had to make the decision, and if I made the wrong call, um, yeah, I hadn't cried that hard in I don't know how many years. Um, just to see your animal just laying there and not being able to do anything, it's one of the worst feelings. I know a lot of people can relate to that and have been through similar things. Yeah, Uranus was front and center for sure. But anyway, so that's my eclipse story. And you
Yeah.
said that it's been pretty intense. Anything that would point to the astrology
Nothing,
of your own chart?
nothing like I have nothing to report that, a story or something, but it's just, I mean, because everything feels intense right now with having, 2, 3 month old babies. So, it's, just pick a day, it's there's something happening where it feels, it's like yesterday morning, Gabriella was just like, I'm so tired. And I just like grabbed the two babies and literally went on a 4 hour walk with them. I was just like, get some rest, and I walked. So like leading up to the eclipse, I mean, I walked like 35,000 steps in less than 24 hours with these two babies. It's like, that was probably about 6 hours all total of walking. It was like 2 hours on Sunday night and then 4 hours on Monday morning. Uh, yeah.
I
So,
bet they loved it though.
I mean, they're sleeping most of the time. So,
Yeah,
cool.
I would
They're
love to
relaxed.
sleep and
Yeah.
have somebody pushing
Yeah.
me around.
Yeah, it's relaxing. Sometimes they're crying, but you just push them long enough and then they just kind of settle in and so yeah, I'm glad to be on the other side of the eclipse. I don't have any like thankfully any, crazy stories, that are like yours, but um I just felt a lot of the intensity. you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh.
With the retrograde too, Mercury retrograde, all of it. It's just everything's been kind of building up, and the retrograde, we just had the conjunction with Saturn and Neptune, which is still occurring. All of this is playing, and then the squaring between Mars and Uranus. Like, Mars was squaring your Uranus, but Uranus was is still opposing your Uranus, as it has been. So that's brought up a lot of intensity in terms of like world events and, you know, all of this is like, oh, okay, yeah, this is happening. Oh, yeah, okay. That's like kind of my reaction for everything. Yeah, oh, yeah, okay. Not surprised. Uh,
Yeah. I don't think I'm surprised by anything that I see on the news.
no.
I mean, we've been talking about it for so long now and trying to get people prepared and ready for the
Yeah.
energy and what was ahead. So, yeah, we have a list of things that we're going to be talking about with the March astrology. I've got it here. Yeah, people were
I just say
asking.
one thing
Yeah,
about the eclipse, though, too,
yeah,
in reference to you, because I think this is like the eclipse in Virgo is about releasing control, and that's really what you did in that moment. You can control the outcome. You just had to make a choice based on faith and intuition, which is exactly what the eclipse is asking us to do, is to not try to control things, to recognize that there's really nothing for you to do. Like, you there I don't know what happened between you being a baby, like my two children, and they do nothing all day except for eat, sleep, poop. They make cute sounds and they look cute, but they're not like cleaning the floor or folding laundry. They're not doing anything. They're just here, but they have incredible value. And at some point in our lives, we were told that we had to earn our keep or something like that. And this Virgo eclipse is saying you have value without doing anything. And so maybe do less and just give it up to God. And that's what you did. And, everything turned out okay, thankfully. So it's no
yeah.
guarantee it's going to turn out okay, but it's really helping us to like release our grip on things, especially when our grip seems to be getting tighter with everything that's going on in the world. It's like, you know, feel like we need to control more. And it's like, no, just you need to have more faith.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and the eclipse was it early this morning?
Yeah. The eclipse was at 3:37 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're in it. It's happened several hours ago, but we're still in that intense energy. So I love what you're sharing about Virgo.
Mhm.
And I have noticed like an uptick on social media with people sharing that their pet passed away unexpectedly. Or so now that we're talking about it, it feels like probably one of the themes is pets and our animals as part of this intense eclipse. But I love what you just shared about not having to earn your value. Reminds me of Cinderella, and how Cinderella would have to clean the house and the stepsisters and the stepmom would go out in their fancy dresses and they would just tell her to clean the house all the time. That's what pops in is like the imagery as you're explaining that of like you don't have to do anything
Yeah.
to prove that you're worthy or valuable or worth being heard, seen, experienced.
It's
Yeah.
such a reminder that like you are an integral part of the universe. Like the universe literally can't exist without you because it doesn't exist without you. You're here. And when you think about the uniqueness of your astrological code, that the next time the planets and stars will be aligned in the way that they were aligned when you were born is over 25,000 years from the date, time, and place of your birth. It's a reminder of how special you are. And that doesn't make you better than anyone else. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you are special. Everyone is special. Everyone is very unique and has value that cannot be duplicated or replicated because it's only you. and you being here is the gift.
I want everybody to say yes, amen in the chat for that one. Woo! Oh, I think sometimes we can lose sight of it, of how unique we are and how special we are because of our unique blueprint, our astrology chart. And especially when life gets hard or intense or the headlines are messy, it can feel like we almost get swept up in it or lost in it. And so it takes us talking about it and saying, no, you really are unique and special and worthy. Um, yeah, I really appreciate that. We're going to talk about what's going on with this list of things I have for the astrology for March. In case you are brand new to this show, Scott and I talk about the astrology. Scott is the astrologer, and his website is theweeklytransit.com. He's got a Substack, he's got sessions, he's got astrology reports. You can learn how to work with the moon, all the things. So make sure you go over to theweeklytransit.com and get on his email newsletter and go pop over to his Substack too to see all the things he shares there. And I'm Dallisa. My website is spiritandspark.com. I am really getting intentional with what it is that I am offering and really allowing curiosity to be at the forefront of everything that I'm doing and offering. And yeah, I think there, we have the gathering room and the commons that are coming up, which is on my website. I think the thing I'm feeling most excited about is from the blue chair. And it's where I will be mailing out letters to people starting in April. So if you want something good in the mail, then check out From the Blue Chair. It's kind of a legacy project that connects me back to my grandmother.
That her
Um,
chair? Is her chair blue?
yeah, she used to sit in a blue chair and write letters. After this whole idea From the Blue Chair downloaded in, um, I was telling my mom about it. We were sitting at a restaurant having breakfast, and my mom started crying. And then I started crying. She's like, "This is such an amazing idea." And I said, "Yeah, so now I just have to find a blue chair." And of course, the universe is always listening. And after breakfast, I said, "Oh, they have that one thrift store that we haven't been to yet. Do you want to go just like check it out and see if it's any good?" So we drive down there, we walk in, and wouldn't you know, there's a blue chair sitting there waiting for me. So I bought it, brought it home, and that is like my daily visual, my inspiration for From the Blue Chair. So anyway, let's dive in to, and she was a Gemini sun sign.
Mm.
So yeah, I
So
feel like we've got that curiosity thread between me and my grandma Eloise. Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Okay, so in your recent email that came out about our broadcast today, you described this energy as like hold my beer. I started laughing because that is exactly what it feels like right now. Here,
I
hold
didn't
my
know. I
beer.
mean, I was like, if you thought February was crazy, March is like, hold my beer because I'm coming. Who knows? Maybe it's not going to be crazier than February, but it could be. Like, I mean, I think things are ramping up mainly because of like where the stellium is moving. It's like we started the year with the stellium in Capricorn, then February or end of January it moved into Aquarius. Pisces now is where the stellium is, and then by the end of March it moves into Aries, which is cardinal fire. And so I always think of when the energy moves from Pisces to Aries, it's like if you have not done that work within your unconscious, healing and, making peace with your psychological trauma, then it's like pushing the dumpster into the middle of the road and lighting it on fire. That's what the Aries energy does. So everything is, I feel like, is going to get really ramped up by the end of March.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one for the record books this month. So yeah, when you think about March, just think about hold my beer.
Yeah.
I thought that was perfect. Okay, so we've talked about the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo and how we're sitting in that energy right now. And if you're feeling intense about life, it may have a lot to do with that full moon lunar eclipse. It could have something to do with Mercury retrograde in Pisces. How long does that Mercury retrograde go? I know that in your newsletter you said it ends this month, but like
Yeah.
when?
So it ends on March 20th, the same day that the sun transits into Aries. Uh, and then it moves out of its retrograde shadow on April 9th, which is the same day that Mars moves into Aries. So it's interesting that there is a sort of correlation with the Aries energy where when Mercury retrograde ends, the sun transits into Aries. When Mercury moves out of its retrograde shadow, Mars moves into Aries. So, um, yeah, and when you think about this retrograde and you think about the degrees, it began at 22 degrees, and I've really been sort of getting into degree theory and understanding the degrees is like their connection to the signs. And 22 degrees is a Capricorn degree. That's where the retrograde began. The retrograde ends at 8 degrees, which is a Scorpio degree. So, you think of Mercury as the planet of consciousness, communication, and it's transiting through Pisces. Mercury is guide of souls to the underworld, the messenger of the gods, transiting through Pisces. So it's the planet of the conscious, moving through the sign of the unconscious. It's beginning at 22 degrees. That's Capricorn. Capricorn represents goals and ambitions. So at the early part of this retrograde, where it began on February 25th, we are looking at, what are my goals and ambitions, and what is holding me back from achieving those. What exists within my unconscious, what unconscious programs are running beneath the surface of my mind that are actually preventing me from achieving what I say I want in this world. uh, so as we roll back Mercury and we're reflecting, we're going to be going deeper into our unconscious. Yesterday, Mars transited into Pisces. And so that the same day as the eclipse. So you have the god of war, the planet of action, aggression, conflict, courage, self-love, transiting into the unconscious. So this is the compassionate warrior, and it's taking that courageous look at the guilt, the shame, the regret, the blame that you've buried deep beneath the couch cushions of your mind, to help you find those demons and make peace with them. The demons are not meant to be slayed, they're meant to be transmuted into angels with love. And so we go back there and we're looking. Oh, and then you've got Mercury retrograde makes three aspects to Jupiter in Cancer. So it already did the first one, which was back on February 16th. That was when Mercury was direct. Jupiter was retrograde in Cancer. It happens again this next week on March 8th. Mercury retrograde again aligns with Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. And then it happens a third time, which is going to be in April 3rd. That's when Mercury and Jupiter are both direct. But Jupiter is the planetary ruler of Pisces, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And so we have these 3 points, February 16th, March 8th, April 3rd, where the planet of the conscious mind, transiting through the sign of the unconscious, is making a direct alignment with the planet of expansion, the planetary ruler of the sign of the unconscious, in the sign that represents the past. And so, where does that guilt come from? Where does that shame come from? Where does that regret and that blame come from? Is it mine? Or is it something that was passed down to me from my ancestors, from my grandfather to my father, my great, 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 what was the trauma they experienced that has been passed down? And we need to find compassion for them, for ourselves, empathy for them, and through that, love. And once we get back to that final degree, when Mercury retrograde ends on March 20th at the Scorpio degree, that's where we have, uh, where we're completely vulnerable. That's where we're naked and we're totally exposed and we're okay with it. We're not ashamed of who we are. And so by the time we get to Mercury getting back to where it was when the retrograde began on April 9th, with Mars transiting into Aries, the planet of action, in the sign that it rules, the first sign, now we have the confidence to move forward and to really go after what it is we want, to turn our dream into reality because we've done that healing work during this retrograde and made peace with ourselves and with our demons.
Ooh, okay. So what I'm hearing is that that April 9th date, if we're feeling that momentum, that the Aries energy that we have activated recently, that April 9th, we could really be feeling like we want to get out there and do the things that maybe have been stirring in our soul. So is April 9th kind of a date that you have on the forefront?
Oh, yeah, that's a big day. I think so. With Mars transiting into Aries, March 20th is a big day with the sun transiting into Aries. All of the, when the sun transits into Aries, the sun is exalted in Aries. It's in a position of power. When Mars transits into Aries, it's in the sign that it rules, it's in its rulership. So both of those planetary energies in Aries are really helping us like push forward to the next phase. It's giving us the courage to do something maybe we haven't done before. Remember, this is a 1 year. It's like do something different with your life. If you're feeling stuck in a certain way, this is the energy that's going to help push you around or beyond or over or through whatever those obstacles are. Uh, you know, don't, maybe it's not even trying to push through the resistance. Maybe it's just trying to go with, I'm just going to go with the flow of what this is telling me right now. And now I feel like, okay, why was I resisting that?
I'd love everybody, either if you're watching the live or you're joining us for the replay, if you could just put yes in the comments if you are feeling that momentum shift. Now, I know we're in a weird Mercury retrograde eclipse energy at the moment, but can you feel that stirring? Because I know I've definitely been feeling that. And like how beautiful that it is paired with that Aries energy in the springtime and the light returning and getting an hour back. For those of us that are going to spring forward with our clocks, I think it's this coming weekend. So it's like the return of the light. So I've been feeling, we're getting a lot of people saying yes in the live. Valerie, Anne Marie, Lorraine, Kelly, Andrea, Ignite the Soul, Autumn, Deb, they're all saying yes.
Awesome.
So yeah, like it feels like there's this cracking open and it mirrors something that I was seeing when I was channeling not too long ago, which was that the headlines and what we would be seeing in the world would not be what we as individuals would be able to experience in our day-to-day life, and that we would have that opportunity to open new doors and new windows and lots of blessings and abundance that we would have in our own individual life. And Spirit was very clear, like, don't get hung up on what you are seeing in a headline, because you don't want to bring that in and manifest that fear and just vibrate at the frequency of fear, so you end up being more fearful of everything. But instead shift into what you can do in your own life and what you're feeling inspired by. um yeah, it's just,
I
like
really,
this. duality.
I love that you bring this up. And I thought of doing an Instagram post on this, but I was like, there's so many talking heads and stuff about what's going on in the world, and I don't want to just be like another person like giving my opinion, it's not even an opinion on that, but but what you're talking about here, and I feel safe in doing it with you here, is what's been coming up for me with regards to everything that's going on in the world is the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Bible, this mystic text. And Lot is told by God, don't look back. Don't look back. And tell your family, don't look back, because if you look back, you will be caught back there. And Lot's wife looks back and she perishes. She gets sucked into the madness and crystallizes into salt, or however the story goes. If I'm butchering it, I'm sorry. But, that's the general understanding, is that something is going on over here. That is not where your attention needs to be. And there is so much opportunity for all of us, like you're saying, to really make some positive changes in your life. And I'm not saying that there's anybody out there and maybe there are, maybe they're not, I don't know, that are like, the puppet masters that are creating all this so that they can pull us in to the chaos. But, there is an element of that. And so it's not to not be aware of what's happening in the world. Be aware, but don't get fixated on it. Because when you get fixated on it, then you get sucked into it. And that's when your gifts are being ciphered by the demon, let's say, as opposed to being utilized in a way that is really abundant and giving to everyone around you. Like when you tap into your gifts right now with the energy that is occurring right now, and you tap into them in a positive way, you are going to be the conduit of peace that resonates and ripples across every person that's in your life and beyond them, to the people that they're connected to. So it's important for us to not get fixated on what's happening in the world, because it's going to get louder, it's going to get noisier, it's going to get crazier. I'm certain of that. For how many years have I been saying that where Chiron is the last time Chiron was here was Vietnam. The last time Uranus was where it was, World War II. The last time, literally where Uranus is right now is where it was when Pearl Harbor happened. The last time Neptune was in this position was the Civil War. And the last time Uranus or Pluto was in this position was the revolutions, the American and French revolutions. So, like, what we thought we were going to get out clean, and there's going to be like, this is chaos. It's going to get more chaotic. But this is your opportunity to harness these energies and do something positive for yourself and those
Yeah.
around you.
I love everything you just said. And as you were giving us such great wisdom and reminders, I was seeing to remind people that you can go into this present moment and see which doors and windows are open and where you feel more of that flow and that spaciousness. So you know, like what to head into more, what to devote more time and energy to. And I usually do this by closing my eyes and I'll think about a couple of different ideas for projects, let's say. And I'll feel into it with my eyes closed and just notice, like, okay, well, when I pull up project A, what do I feel when I'm sitting with that? Okay, now I go ahead and I put that back to the side. Okay, show me project B and bring that in. And like, do you get lit up? Do you get excited? Like, so our bodies will tell us which doors and windows have the most openings and spaciousness for creation. If we slow down long enough to just sit with it in the present moment, we will know which way to go. And sometimes we're afraid to make the decisions because maybe we don't feel like we have permission to do it, or what if we screw up the decision and everything goes sideways. And I believe in a universe that we are co-creating with, and if you happen to make a decision that maybe isn't filled with rainbows and butterflies. There is something in there that you were meant to pick up anyway along the way. So, in other words, we can't really screw this up. But feel like you and I are both saying, like, take the moment that you are in right now and embrace it. And that there are so many possibilities here if you choose to go within and see what's sparking that curiosity and that enjoyment and that fulfillment and lean in more towards that, because you're right, it's going to get more intense and the noise level is going to be feel deafening, and that will be so easy for us to get sucked into
Mhm.
if we are not mindful. And so I
Yes.
think just like the story you shared, it's like, try not to be too far in the past and really try not to be too far in the future, but just notice which doors are open for you right now.
I think the key thing that you said that just like really stuck with me was asking for permission. Like I can't do this because I need to ask for permission. That to me is what this eclipse was about. It's like that Virgo is the virgin. The virgin's like, oh, can I do this? I don't know. Am I good enough? You are. And this eclipse is saying, get rid of that energy right now. Have faith that you can't make a wrong choice. There's different choices that have different outcomes. Some might feel better than others, but if you're trusting that feeling of abundance, which is exemplified by Jupiter, the planetary ruler of Pisces, it's the planet of abundance, then that is the way to go. So when you have that feeling of the tingles all over your body, when your chest feels open, and full, that's when you're in the right place. When you can take a deeper breath. Like nobody is watching CNN or Fox News and taking, oh, I'm so relaxed watching Fox News and CNN. Oh, it's so relaxing. No one's doing that. It's like your breath gets shorter. You're getting anxiety. You're getting angry. You're getting frustrated. And why are you frustrated? Because what can you actually do? You know, it's there's nothing to do. It's like watching a house burn on your TV. What are you supposed to do? Like get a bucket of water and throw it at the TV? It's not going to put out the flames. You need to focus on what's happening in your body. And it's about your body being in that place where you get the tingles. And then there might be guilt. Oh, I can't feel good. There's people suffering in the world.
Mhm,
Well, your suffering doesn't help their suffering.
mhm.
Your abundance, your love, your sense of peace is going to be the energy that reverberates to those places where there is suffering and brings the light to the darkness.
Amen to that. Um, yeah, there's all kinds of nuggets in this episode so far. So I'm loving the conversation. It reminds me of things that I've seen. Um, there's a channel I follow on YouTube, Agenda Free TV. And he is like the most neutral news person I've ever found. And he shows live streams of different skylines in the Middle East,
Mm,
mostly. And over the
peaceful.
weekend, I started getting so ticked off about the war and watching, the different radar that he would pull up on the screen. And I made a little video, I think it was Friday, about like asking the question, like, can someone literally tell me why religions, groups of people that believe different things are killing each other? And big piece of that being over God. And God is probably like, what the hell are you guys doing? You know, you're killing each other. That is not like, it's like literally the opposite of what I believe a loving, kind God is. So, anyway, I made this video. A lot of comments. You could imagine the range of comments I got on something like that. I was very aware of what I was doing. I do not regret it. But one thing I sat with, and you and I were talking backstage before we went live today about curiosity and how that's kind of just been a mantra for me since you and I have had conversations about curiosity over the last few years. So I found a book. I have not started it yet. I just got it in the mail, but it's called The History of God.
Mm.
And it's a book about where the Jewish faith, Christianity, and Islam started from, and like the history of it over the last 4,000 years.
Wow.
So I've decided instead of just being pissed off about what one group is doing or another group is doing, my hope and intention in reading that book, even though it probably won't answer all of my questions, is that I'm going to really aim to try to understand where different faiths come from and why they're born in different countries and societies and the purpose that it served then and perhaps what it's serving now, and really try to see it through the lens of curiosity rather than make assumptions of things that I've never lived and never been there to witness myself. So, just sharing that as an example of like a door opening in the present moment to try to lean in towards more into a higher frequency of curiosity rather than just watching it and getting angry.
Totally. Because I mean, what do I know about living in the Middle East? You know, it's like I've never been there before. How can I have an opinion over how people should be living or what they should be doing? I don't know, I'm not educated in that. I don't have any experience in that. So I have friends that are from that part of the world, but that's the extent. So I think that curiosity is a really important um it's something for all of us to really kind of like, what can I learn from this or what's going on there? Or, yeah, I think all of that is important.
Yeah. And it feels like the higher we go in frequency, which I know a lot of us, especially those that are watching this content and, engaging with us in the live chat, that is a higher frequency. And I think the higher we go, which Spirit has said, that we will be in higher realms of consciousness and be using telepathy more and more between people. Feels like the higher we go in that frequency, the more that war and bombing and destroying buildings or killing people, it feels like the gap between the two is getting wider and wider. It's almost like I really don't understand all of the casualty, and I know it's part of Earth School and the duality and everything, but it just seems like such an old energy, all the war energy versus where we're at and where we have the capacity to go as a world. Um, I think unfortunately at this point, it would take some massive event that would get humans to really band together, whether that's some kind of massive disclosure or but I don't feel like we're anywhere near that. I think there's going to be layers and layers of this that is going to be observed and peeled back and hopefully discussed and healed. But I don't even think we're anywhere near the middle of this, even.
I think I love that you bring up the curiosity of God too, and like the origin of that, because right now Jupiter is at 15 degrees in Cancer, and Cancer is the origin, and 15 degrees is the Gemini degree, which is curiosity. So, it's like the more we can delve into the origin of things, the more we can have that sort of understanding that you're talking about here, that we're looking towards. Because, yeah, how are we gonna we have a lot to learn, obviously. Like, we're still doing this. We're still bombing and killing and going to war and that sort of stuff. It feels like an old energy, um, that is just recycled again and again. So how do we cycle out of this?
Yes. And let's hope that it's not some massive event, which does feel like it's pretty prominent in the energy. If I'm being honest about what I sense is coming, I think it's going to be a major casualty event.
Hmm.
Um, that'll kind of put this on its head in terms of the war and what we're doing. And I hope I am wrong about that, but that's what it feels like it's going at this point. Okay, so far we've talked about the full moon lunar eclipse that we're in right now. You mentioned Mars that went into Pisces
Mhm.
and everything that brings with it. You talked about Mercury in Pisces trining Jupiter in Cancer, and it also Mercury in Pisces goes conjunct with the North Node. So,
Yeah,
is
that
there
happened.
anything about any of those that you want to mention?
Yeah, there's something with the North Node um, as well. Like there's like some deep inner soul work that is happening there because the North Node is the karmic pathway of the soul, and it's just sitting at this 8 degrees for a significant amount of time. That Scorpio degree. And Mercury being guide of souls to the underworld is Scorpio. And, historically, what we have seen with when Mercury forms this conjunction with the North Node when it's in Pisces, there are issues around borders, who belongs on this side of the line, who doesn't belong on this side of the line, that sort of stuff. It all becomes really nebulous because of that Pisces energy. But for us as individuals, like it's again, it's about taking that look at yourself in the most exposed, unflattering, vulnerable light. Just imagine yourself naked in the worst lighting possible, and everyone can see you. Can you still love yourself in that moment? And if not, what is the work you need to do about yourself? Are you being critical? Oh, you've got these lines there, or your stomach is holding out there. It's like, what how are you speaking to yourself? um because if we're working with this energy properly, there's compassion. It's not about order or structure. It's about we're all here, we all belong here because we're all here, and it's about being empathetic with one another. And so there's a deeper lesson that's happening around this conjunction that happens 3 times. So, the first one was February 11th. The second is happening. Where is that one? That's going to be March 13th. Is that the second or third one? Yeah, that's the February 11th. February 11th. Yeah, March 13th. And then, yeah, it kind of just holds in that because that's where the retrograde ends, is 8 degrees Pisces. Uh, so it's there March 15th and March 17th is when it forms the exact conjunction, but it's kind of just sitting there at the end of the retrograde. So by the time we get to mid March, I think that there's going to be a lot coming up internally with all of us it's really going to force us to look at ourselves in this unflattering light and love ourselves despite what we see.
I was laughing to myself because this is my personality, Scott. I think you've gotten to know me pretty well over the last few years, but when you were saying stand naked in the most unflattering light, I'm like, yeah, do it like a little dance. And then my brain went to, yeah, bend over, like show them what you got. Like, and I know that's really crass, but I think it's like, can we just lighten up like a little bit with ourselves and who we are? Like, we all have faults. We all screw up. Like, we all feel all of the things. And I
Mm.
think that, yeah, when we are in the most unflattering light, like, can we just in that moment shimmy, dance, and remember that whatever it is you're feeling, everyone else at some point in their life has probably felt that too.
Yeah.
And we are more alike than we are different.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
why not just try to shine as bright as you can in that dull lighting.
Mhm.
And just be like,
Yes.
this is who I am, and this is what it is. And I love me, and what you think of me is none of my business.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So yeah. Oh, Valerie's saying you go girl. See? It's my crass personality that comes out when I'm usually not streaming live. Um
And what's happening after this too is like when the sun moves into Aries, and we're already, experiencing that this week when Venus moves into Aries. Venus is going to form a conjunction with Neptune. That happens uh, on March 7th. So what is that? Saturday, I think. Um, and then the sun forms a conjunction with Neptune in Aries. That happens on March 22nd. Then there's also going to be, later on in April, Mercury and um Mars are going to form conjunctions with Neptune, but just focusing on the two conjunctions that happen with Neptune this month. The conjunction with Venus and Neptune is helping you reimagine your relationships. Venus is transiting into Aries this week. It's going to spend pretty much the whole month in Aries. On the last day of March, or on March 30th, second to last day, is when Venus transits into Taurus, the sign that it rules. So, Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of relationships, in the cardinal fire sign symbolized by the ram and ruled by Mars, the god of war, the planet of self love, courage, confidence. We are going to be looking more clearly in terms of what am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of this relationship? Am I being treated fairly? Because Mercury or Venus transiting from Pisces is in its exalted position. And from Pisces, Venus is very empathic and it might sacrifice more than what's necessary in terms of your relationships. When it transits into Aries at the end of this week, we're going to be like, no, that doesn't work for me. And let's remember that the people that we're in relationship with, Venus is also transiting through Aries for them too. So there could be some conflicts that come up this month in relationships in order to suss out what's right for me, what feels right for me. And with the conjunction with Neptune, it's helping us reimagine what these relationships are supposed to be. Then the sun gets there after it transits into Aries. March 22nd is when it makes that conjunction. And that's reimagining who we are as individuals, having the courage to shake it and all that sort of stuff naked, and be like, you know what, you don't like it, that's your business, not my business. Not worried about that. I'm happy with I love myself, and I deserve to be with people who love me. So you not loving me is a gift, because it's saving me time. I don't have to engage with you. Thank you.
Yeah, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. I think that's Maya Angelou. Yeah. Uh, because as we get more comfortable and confident in the unflattering lighting and we really, really own it, it will shift the way that we see the relationships that we're in or the people that are around us. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but I think you're right. As we own our value more and know our worth that we were born with, and we really, really feel that from head to toe, the relationships that maybe haven't been in our best interest, or they're no longer aligning with where we are now or who we are today, we may experience some questions around that, or, maybe it's time for this to separate, whatever kind of relationship it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I would expect some shifting to happen in the relationships that we have in our life, if we really are doing that deep inner work and we are feeling ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You mentioned the stellium in Aries. So
Yeah.
you said it was Aquarius, Pisces, and then we're going to have the stellium in Aries. So how many planets is that's going to have the stellium in Aries? Which planets are they? Like anytime I hear of a stellium in a sign, I just think it's kind of like we're underlining and putting exclamation points next to it because it just feels like a lot of compounded energy in the same place in the chart. So what the heck is the
Actually,
stellium in Aries?
I'm gonna actually share my screen. I said I was gonna do this, and then
Yeah, look at us getting fancy here.
so people can see what I'm talking about here. So you can see early January, there are four planets here in Capricorn: Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and Mars. So then we go to right here. This is the January 24th. I'm just picking a random date here, but by that point there was Mars, Pluto, so the Sun, Mercury, and Venus all in Aquarius. The last time those five specific planets were in Aquarius was February of 1791. And it had been some time since there were four planets in Capricorn. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't like that long ago, but it was, like several decades ago. So this is not something that happens every year. When these shifts are happening, it's significant. So then we move to here, where now February 21st, you can see there are three planets and the North Node in Pisces. That's a stellium. By the time we got to, so here we're going to go to the March 2nd, March 3rd. We got four planets in the North Node in Pisces. So three or more planets in the same sign is a stellium. We're going to have a Aries and Pisces stellium happening concurrently here by the time we get to Friday, March 6th, where Mercury or Venus transits into Aries. So by this Friday, there's going to be Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and Chiron all in Aries, with Mars, the North Node, the Sun, and Mercury in Pisces. So this balance of compassion and courage, water and fire happening at the same time. We move further here, and we get to, the Sun moves into Aries here on the 20th. There's going to be five planets in Aries right here. Five planets in Aries. Um, then the Venus moves into Taurus. That happens, as I said, March 30th. Shortly thereafter, Mars arrives into Aries. And then after that, Mercury moves into Aries. So by the time we get to mid April, April 15th, when we're going to have the new moon in Aries, there will be, including the moon, there'll be seven planets in Aries. Like, I, yeah, it's gonna be crazy, intense. I don't know what exactly, but and then even after the moon leaves, there's still six planets in Aries. So, including the planetary ruler Mars, the god of war. So, there's going to be a real sort of maybe aggressive energy here. A lot of conflict coming up potentially. When Mars is in Aries, it's it's intense. The if everyone remembers, J6, that was when Mars was at the final degree of Aries. So things are going to be ramping up in April, end of March, but really April is like when kind of the wheels come off, the train leaves the tracks, type of energy. Mars doesn't wait for anything. Uh, Aries doesn't wait for anything. It's very impulsive, um, especially when it senses fear. So, and there's a lot of fear that's going to come up. Like Aries already people are afraid, and it's natural, normal to be afraid with what's going on in the world. But the fear is coming from Saturn, the planet of responsibility, in Aries, Neptune, the planet of the unconscious, in Aries, Chiron, the wound, and the ancient wisdom which is unlocked through healing that wound, in Aries. So there's been this Aries stellium that has been occurring since mid-February when Saturn moved into Aries. And that's saying take responsibility for your fears. Neptune is saying show yourself compassion for your fears. Chiron is saying acknowledge your fears and do something positive with them. The positivity comes through self love and love for others. Fear and love are two sides of the same coin. So when the fear comes up, the work is love. And that's, April, I imagine a lot of fear. End of March, a lot of fear. April, even more. But that fear, we transmute it or restructure it into love, which then becomes courage.
Beautifully said. I have had downloads about nuclear threat. I
Mm.
haven't seen it actually go off, but I have seen that as part of my channeling. It would not surprise me at all if there is more of that language that's picked up in, the next 6 weeks or so, especially as we get closer and closer to that stellium in mid-April. And again, just like you were saying, going into the fear, leaning into it. I like leaning into something that has some grittiness to it or like an emotion like fear, anger. I actually treat that as like an opportunity to learn something about myself because sometimes, you could feel really upset and then beat yourself up for being upset and like, oh, you were sad all day. Like you could have been doing XYZ. It's like, no, 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 no. What if we just got really curious about what we are afraid of? Because just like you said, Scott, there's going to be things that come up that will probably send most people into fear. And whether you stay in fear for a short time and you get curious and ask, what is it trying to show you? Or you're there for longer, that fear is trying to get you to see something about yourself, about your beliefs, about the stories you've told yourself, things about your past that maybe you haven't healed all the way, or relationships that elements are coming up for you to look at. But as the headlines get scarier and more intense, my hope for all of us, including myself, I am not immune to this, but that when it presents itself, whatever that fear is, that we remember this conversation and we remember that we can come back to our breath, we can come back to the present moment, and we can truly get honest with ourselves with even that journaling prompt. What am I afraid of? And just letting the words come out. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And it could be going back to a point you made earlier that I laughed about, which was like standing in the unfavorable light naked. I think what we'll find for many of us as we look deeper into fear is that we are afraid of being vulnerable. We're afraid of being exposed. We're afraid of not knowing what comes next. We're afraid to be out of control. But really, what I've heard you say a few times today is that is where the real beauty and wisdom and confidence sits, is in that place of raw vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the fear can be a tool if we choose to use it as a tool.
Yes. The fear is helping us in some way. It's helping us get unstuck. And it's help motivating us to find the love within ourselves. Hopefully.
Yeah. And the remembrance of what we talked about earlier of us suffering is not helping the people that are suffering in these war torn areas or the suffering that's happening in a different state or a different country than where you live in, or your neighbor's suffering doesn't get better if you decide you're going to suffer right along with them. It's the amplification of the lighter frequencies like hope and love and joy and
Yes.
curiosity
Yes.
that is what ripples outward. So if you really are interested in making a change in either the people around you, the community you live in, or the people that live on the opposite end of the world, the frequency you carry is the ripple that you are making out into the world. And so if you
Mm.
want to do something, as many people have said throughout history, it starts with you.
Yes.
Whew. So as we think about these next, we'll call it 6 weeks. And I know you and I will do an April episode and dig into all of that will be coming up. Is there anything else that either planetary or that's coming up as words of wisdom as we are getting ready to traverse this dark cave
Mm.
that you would want people to be equipped with?
Hmm. I would just say acknowledge your fear, take responsibility for your fear, do some investigative work in terms of where does that fear stem from. It stems somewhere in your past, probably comes from a parent through your ancestry, your bloodline, but was reinforced through the different experiences you had that you can pinpoint throughout your life. Spend some time being there with your younger self and sit with your younger self in the fear that your younger self was experiencing. Acknowledge that, show yourself compassion, and encourage yourself because you've made it here to where you are now. And through that work, the goal is self love. You know, we begin March in self reflection, we end March with self love. That's the arc of, and along the way through that self reflection, there's going to be some parts of ourselves that we may have difficulty loving, but that is the work. And that is the work of Saturn in Aries, is working to love yourself.
And it is work.
Mhm.
And it's why we're here in this human body. I was trying to find a photo as you were describing that. I can't seem to find it at the moment, but a cousin of mine sent it recently, and I was young. I had missing teeth, I'd say I was probably 4, maybe 5, and I love the picture so much
Mm.
because the smile on my face just is beaming with happiness and joy, and anything is possible, in a little kid body. And I think just like you were talking about a moment ago about going into our past and our ancestors and where we picked up different things along the way, it is absolutely incredible what happens when you talk to that younger self and you pull that energy in and you sit with them and you talk to them. And I've had so many experiences where younger me comes and sits on my lap
Mm.
and we have a conversation about what she wants and what she's excited about and what she's afraid of. And then how does that, apply to my adult life and the decisions I'm making today? And so anybody that hasn't done that or hasn't done that lately, you may really feel with all this Pisces energy that it's a beautiful time to do that and see what your younger self wants to say. And I'll be honest, it's not always um, happy go lucky energy. Sometimes it's really raw and really emotional. But my experience with it has been each time I do it, it's like I feel a deeper connection to myself on a level that I don't normally feel connected to. Like it hits a deep, deep part of that core soul. And that's where that vulnerability is. And just like you said today, it's not always going to be in perfect lighting,
No.
but that's where the human experience, I think, can really shine.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. Whoo. We had a comment in here about, I think it was from Andrea. She says, I feel like we're in a group therapy session. You're both awesome. Thanks for doing this.
I love it.
We're just speaking from the heart. No therapists here.
Mm.
Um, yeah. So Joanna's asking if we could do this more often. So
Much
now
as you
that
want,
my
Dallisa.
count, what's that?
As much as you want. I'll be here every week with you. You know that.
My schedule is actually getting much more manageable now that I've completely shifted my entire company and I've been on quite the podcast tour. And so
Mm.
now it's like starting to kind of click back into place, into its new place.
Mhm.
I actually feel like I'll have more spaciousness. So I promise that I will look at my calendar and that I will send you an email, Scott. That is my promise. Um, I feel like I'm finally like coming up for air again. So yeah, it was a few very intense months and very, very hard work, but I feel like that spring energy of like the wildflower starting to grow and to bloom.
The
Like I
beginning of the
finally,
astrological new year, in March. So it's like this is really the new year is March 20th. That's when the energy's fresh. All these planets in Aries. It's going to be a fresh start. Fear is going to come up, but it's going to be exciting and energizing and powerful.
yeah. And we got to stick together. So sounds like we probably do need to speak a little bit more often because there's going to be so much happening. So yeah, I'll take a look at the calendar. But yeah, so now that we've kind of talked all through March, and if there are individuals out there that either want to look at their own chart or they want to learn more about astrology, I know you have a lot that you're offering right now. Like, what do you feel is part of that like spring, new year that you're offering? I know you do a lot on Substack and your sessions and everything. What feels like front and center for you right now with your work?
Front and center for me is the cosmic pathway. That's like I don't know, people use the term container. It's like my weekly container where I work with the client one on one, and I'm your personal guide through the week, week in, week out. We're looking at your chart. We're talking about what's been going on in the week for you, and I'm that support system for you. It's going to give you the clarity, like what happened with you with your cat, help you understand what was happening there. But to really, when you think about like the beginning of the astrological new year and the journey to self love, my purpose is to help you understand who you are so you can accept, appreciate, and love the divine, unique miracle that is you. And people can come to me for a reading and that's great, but I've heard clients have told me that like meeting with me once is like doing drugs. It's like you're really high afterwards, and I get concerned about people afterwards, the crash, the hangover. This helps sustain the energy, and that's where you can really see lasting changes because we will help you break those old habits, that are maybe holding you back from getting to where you need to go, and supporting you on the journey ahead.
I love that. Yeah. You certainly help with all of that. And it does. It feels like a sacred container where, with the chart, because you're so tuned in, like an individual really feels seen in ways that, and I am not saying don't go to traditional therapy. I'm not saying anything like that. But even people that are in therapy, having a layer of astrology in there where you're like really talking about your unique signature makes a huge difference. And I've even heard it from people throughout the years, like with when I do my session work, kind of similar to where, wow, what you see or what we've talked about is so different than what I talk about with this other person, you know? So I don't know, it's something to think about, but I feel like who doesn't want that, right? So, especially people that are really trying to find that self value, or they're trying to figure out like the next step or the path that they're on and trying to navigate it. It's like the best of all the worlds together in one. So, and so what's the best way? Just reach out to you through your website?
So what I would recommend is if you're somebody who has already done a reading with me, then just email me and tell me you're interested and we can talk further. If you haven't done a reading with me, then I would encourage you to schedule a reading with me first, maybe an hour, and I'll do a breakdown of your full chart, and if you're feeling inspired at the end of it and you want to hear more about the cosmic pathway, then mention it at the end of the reading and we can talk further.
Right on. All right. Well, if I might screw up the technology with this since I've been so on par today with Mercury retrograde, I'm going to show my website real quick and let's see if I can get this to work. See, already it's like jacking up the. Okay. Let's see. Maybe. Maybe. No. No, it's not working. Let's see if I move it here. No. See, this is like where it starts going off the rails. So, I was gonna say go to my website and click on from the
Does the
blue
blue chair,
chair. This doesn't
is
really
that
look right.
is that your actual chair?
Yeah, this is the chair I found at the thrift store that.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I did like
Wait,
a little illustration with it.
how'd you do that and take that picture? Did you like put it in AI or something?
Yes. I took a picture of the actual chair. There we go.
Oh,
And I had AI draw a picture for me.
uh-huh.
So that is the blue chair where I'm going to be sending my letters from.
Love it.
So from the blue chair, and this is just a really easy, simple web page that I created because it launches next month since we're officially in March now. And it launches in the US and it's going to start with 111 addresses. And yeah, if you're interested and you feel like, oh my gosh, yes, I need a letter from Dallisa every month and I want to be reminded that everything is going to be okay, and you want something really nice in the mail that you can actually like feel good opening your mailbox, then go to spiritandspark.com and then just fill out this tiny little form here. That will add you to the interest list since I'm only starting with a limited number of addresses. But yeah, so that's from the blue chair. I'm pretty excited about it. So now
Awesome.
let's
I
see
love
if I
it.
can get my screen situated again. We might just have to say goodbye from this screen because I have hit way too many buttons and I don't know where the heck everything is at. So, but yeah, so Scott, thank you again for being here and for sharing all of your wisdom. And there's so many different things that you said today that I think deserve to be highlighted and underlined. And I think this is one of those episodes worth rewatching again and getting some of those dates highlighted. And I feel like we're more prepared And I feel more settled in my energy. I feel more grounded after our conversation today. And
Good.
I appreciate you, your time, and your talent. You're over at theweeklytransit.com. And all of my From the Blue Chair, the Gathering Room, and the Commons are all over at spiritandspark.com. Yeah. So, any final last words, Scott, for today's episode?
Just grateful to be here with you, Dallisa. Grateful for everybody in the chat, everybody who's watching live, and anyone who's coming in, for the recording. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. You can find me at theweeklytransit.com, and I am a soul chiropractor. That's how I like to think of myself.
A soul chiropractor. That's really, really good. I like that. I hadn't heard that before. And then
Energetic adjustment.
an energetic
For the
adjustment. I
for the
love
fact
that.
that you feel grounded and you feel better right now, it's like, okay, I did my job. That's how you should feel.
Absolutely. I love that. I wanted to just quickly shout out before we stop the stream today. We had 4 people that were
Mm.
all tied with 150 points on the YouTube live stream. So, Autumn, Valerie, Joanna, and Nancy Loves Life. You all had a tie for the top points today. So, thank you to everybody who's joining us live and commenting. And let us know in the replay what stood out to you today and what are you going to work on in the month ahead. I'd love to hear from everybody. And yeah, we will see you sometime soon. You'll read about it in Scott's email. You'll hear about it from me. So we'll get together and do this again soon. I feel like the world really needs it. I really need it. So yeah. So thank